And greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. It is great to have you here today. Great to be with you. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Studies of All Things That Matter. Telephone number 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. We're going to do a version of Open Line Friday today, Mr. Snerdley. Whatever people want to call about, whatever they want to ask about, whatever they want to say, anything about, let them have at it. And it's since we're not going to be here on Friday, this is, in fact, the last program of the year for me. And, folks, I want to tell you at the outset here, to me, this is a very important program. I have very much that I want to say to all of you today. And I'm feeling very pressured. Not pressured. I'm feeling stage fright kind of thing. So much I want to say, and I want to say it correctly. I want to convey my feelings. And I want to do it right. I want to do it to the best of my ability. And I have found in circumstances like this that the best thing to do is not to think about it. Don't make it more pressure-packed than it already is. But it's very important. You all are very important. My family is very important to me. I've had a year now to reflect on the things that really matter. A year to reflect on the things that are completely relevant and important to me. And all of you are in that large conglomeration of people and things that are very important to me. I want to go back. Normally, by the way, I wait until the third hour of the program to. As I've always said that I usually use the Christmas program, such as this one, to engage in my thank yous and my thankfulness for the year, rather than at Thanksgiving. And I don't know why, something about Christmas. My childhood memories of it, the families getting together and the children making it what it was. My feelings of thankfulness always surface. My feelings of great gratitude always surface at the Christmas time of year. And it's no different this year. Now, in January of this year, toward the end of the month, I received a diagnosis. You all know, but there's something I want to say about it. Stage 4, advanced lung cancer, terminal diagnosis. The objective of everybody involved was to extend life for as long as possible, as enjoyably as possible. Now, many of you have been through this. Lots of you have been through this, as individuals, as families. And you know what that means. Medical treatment that is designed to attack the disease as greatly as possible while maintaining a quality of life that makes it worth it. Some people can't deal with the side effects of chemo or other forms of treatment. Well, back in late January, when I received this diagnosis, and I was shocked. I was stunned and I was in denial for about a week. I mean, I'm Rush Limbaugh. I'm Mr. Big, the vast right-wing conspiracy. I mean, I'm indestructible. This can't be right. But it was. And what I didn't know at the time, that I learned later in the course of the year, was that I wasn't expected to be alive today. I wasn't expected to make it to October and then to November and then to December. And yet, here I am. And today, I've got some problems, but I'm feeling pretty good today. God's with me today. God knows how important this program is to me today. And I'm feeling natural in terms of energy, normal in terms of energy. And I'm feeling entirely capable of doing it today. I have been blessed. I mentioned to all of you back in the early days, sometime, I guess, this might have been in February. It was, I think, either during or shortly after I had received the Presidential Medal of Freedom at this year's State of the Union address by President Trump in the House chamber. By the way, something I really hoped that he had a marvelous speech last night, 4-minute speech on the COVID relief debacle coming out of the Congress that should be studied in a master's course in communication. It was clear, it was concise, it was well-paced, it was powerful, it was on brand, and it was classic. It was the kind of speech only an outsider could have made. And I really hoped that Trump would sit down and start ripping up the bill as Pelosi ripped up his speech. You know, when she began to rip up his speech is when he began the presentation of the medal to me, seated next to his wife, the First Lady Melania, and I turned my back to her, which is proper. She was the one who actually put the medal around my neck. And I thought it would have been great if Trump would have ripped up that bill, but he didn't. And that's understandable as well. But I remember saying to all of you at that time that I had a little bit of understanding of something that had perplexed me for a lot of my life, and that was Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse, New York Yankees, set the record for consecutive games played until Cal Ripken came along decades later and broke it. And on the day that Ripken, or the day that Lou Gehrig announced that he had his disease that was forcing him to retire from Major League Baseball, he said to the sold-out Yankee Stadium, "Today I feel like the luckiest man on the face of the earth." And I didn't understand that. I mean, here's a guy who had just been diagnosed with the most terminal of terminal diseases. And I said, this can't be real. You can't really think he's the luckiest guy in the world. This is just something that he's saying because it will play well. I don't mean to be insulting Lou Gehrig. Don't misunderstand. I'm just thinking that how in the world, if you're being honest, can you feel like you're the luckiest man on the face of the earth? Well, when I got my diagnosis and when I began to receive all of the outpouring of love and affection from everywhere in my life, from so many of you in so many ways, and from my family who, man, they have supported me my entire career, even during times it would have been understandable and easy for them to say, "Rush who? We don't know this guy." But that never happened. I mean, I've been totally supported by virtually everybody in my family. I've been propped up. I have been defended. I've been made to look better than I am. My lovely wife, Catherine, has done so much in that regard. She has done so much with RushLimbaugh.com and with the charitable efforts that we have engaged in, and all of it has been to my benefit. All of it has been for the and yours. It's the benefit of people who are the recipients of our efforts. So many people have put me first in all of this, and I understand now what Lou Gehrig meant, because I certainly feel like that. I feel extremely fortunate and lucky. And because I have outlived the diagnosis, I've been able to receive and hear and process some of the most wonderful, nice things about me that I might not have ever heard had I not gotten sick. Began to think how many people who pass away never hear the eulogies, never hear the thank yous. I've been very lucky, folks, and I can't tell you how many ways. When this kind of thing befalls you, it's hard not to become self-focused. It's hard to not just think of yourself, and it's hard to think that everybody's going to drop what they're doing and deal with me, with you. You have to guard against that, because this is, to the family, this is as disrupting, it's as upsetting as it is to me, and in some cases even more so. So I can't be self-absorbed about it when that is the tendency, when you are told that you've got a due date. You have an expiration date. A lot of people never get told that, and so they don't face life this way. This is not a complaint. I'm simply, this is why I say so much I want to say today, and so much I want to say well, so much I want to say exactly as I'm feeling it. Because my point in all of this today is gratitude. My point in everything today that I share with you about this is to say thanks and to tell everybody involved how much I love you from the bottom of a sizable and growing and still beating heart. And there's room for much more. All because I've learned what love really is during this. You know, I have a philosophy. There's good that happens in everything. It may not reveal itself immediately. And even in the most dire circumstances, if you just wait, if you just remain open to things, the good in it will reveal itself. And that has happened to me as well in countless ways. You know, I mentioned Catherine. Don't misunderstand. She's done much more than just redesign a website and shepherd the RushLimbaugh.com store. She shepherded the charitable efforts, the Betsy Ross, Stand Up for Betsy Ross. That amount of money we generated for the Tunnel to Towers organization, just incredible stuff. And it was all done for me. Well, and the beneficiaries of the charity, it was all done for me. All of this was done for me. So many people have done things this year for me. And it's not embarrassing. It's just gratifying. And it has helped me to see so much, so clearly, about the goodness of people and their decency. And it's confirmed so much of my instinctive beliefs about people. For example, the alleged president-elect Joe Biden holiday message: our darkest days are ahead of us. Well, for some of us, that's absolutely true. But, folks, I have to tell you, if I were president-elect of the country, it's the last thing I would say. And even if I believed it, I doubt that I would put it this way. But I don't believe this anyway. Darkest days are ahead of us. What a bleak way of looking at things. This is during a press briefing yesterday. Said the worst is yet to come in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Which is weird, given that Biden has repeatedly claimed that it's Trump who's killing Americans with COVID. And so Trump's going to be gone soon, so why are our darkest days ahead of us when Trump is leaving, if Trump's responsible for all of this? But my point is, yeah, the virus is what it is, but we adapt. I talked about this yesterday. we Americans have adapted to our problems. We've adapted to changing evolutionary things in our lives, in our country, because of our freedom. Our freedom has allowed our adaptability. If disaster is coming our way, we don't just sit there and endure it. We come up with ways to avoid it, to beat it back, to overcome it, but we don't just sit there and accept it. And as such, we don't just resign ourselves to the fact that we're living in the darkest days, because we, at least to this point, still have the greatest degree of freedom of any people on earth. Now, it's under assault and under attack, and we all know this. But I don't believe our darkest days are ahead of us. I never have. Like people have been asking, you've always told us it'd be time to panic. Well, it's never time to panic, folks. It's never, ever going to be time to give up on our country. It'll never be time to give up on the United States. It'll never be time to give up on yourself. Trust me. So we're going to do a real program today. And in the process of the real program, I'm going to be sharing the thoughts I want to share with you today. I'm going to just do it at random whenever it hits me, whenever I feel it. I got to take a break right now. I'm a little long here. We'll be back. We will continue. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for being part of this audience for 30 years, 32, whatever it is. It's just mind-boggling. But we've got to go. Be back right after this.
The most trusted.
I mentioned President Trump's 4-minute video last night from the White House and how awesome and classically outsider masterclass in communication it was. We have 40 seconds of it here that I can share with you to give you an idea of what I'm talking about.
Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I am also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me, and we will get it done.
Whoa, had to tack that on at the end as though still may have something up his sleeve. So Trump slammed the so-called COVID relief bill because of all the pork in it. We went through yesterday how much money is in this thing, and it's actually over $2 trillion because the $900 billion gets added to $1.4 trillion to keep the government up and running. And so the American people get $600 each. Trump said, no way, we got to up that to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. And guess what? Pelosi and the Democrats are welcoming the change. Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and even Crazy Bernie are cheering Trump's call for a $2,000 payment instead of $600. Now, why do you think that is? Before you answer, there's a couple of possibilities of this. Oops, look, we've reached another obscene profit timeout. Got to take it. Be right back and resume after this. And welcome back, Rush Limbaugh, and the end of the year broadcast here at the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. So great to have you with us, my friends. Thank you for today and every other day that you have been part of this growing, astounding audience. The largest, the greatest audience in American commercial talk radio history. Now, politically speaking, Trump goes out, 4-minute video from the White House, saying the hell with this, $600 the average American, while listing all of the pork, all the money going to all these countries for crazy things. $15 million to repair a patrol boat in Sri Lanka, and other ridiculous things. And so Pelosi immediately comes out and agrees with Trump. We need to have $2,000 or $4,000 per couple rather than this measly $600. would she do that? Why would she not come out and criticize Trump for this? Because politically, he crushed her. I guarantee you that I don't think Pelosi or any other Democrat had the slightest idea that Trump would react this way. They still don't know how outsiders think. They still don't know who Trump really is. They're not interested in finding out. Trump did what no other Republican managed to do. And he did it brilliantly in 4 minutes. He showed America who and what Nancy Pelosi and her Democrat colleagues are: selfish, entitled, uncaring, elitist. Remember who Pelosi is. Pelosi is the woman we saw standing in front of a $25,000 refrigerator eating gourmet ice cream during the middle of the pandemic while Biden says our darkest days are ahead of us. While millions of Americans stood in food bank lines because their jobs were shut down, because their governors and mayors were shutting them down because of the China virus. So now there are a number of things that the various supporters of the president are suggesting that he do. Some say he should veto this bill, as he threatened to do last night. He did not say he was going to veto it. He held out the possibility. There's also the possibility of a pocket veto. Now, pocket veto is pretty much what it sounds like. And it is a way that the president could prevent this idiocy of a bill from becoming law. Pocket vetoes don't happen very much. Congress has to be in the proper parliamentary posture for it to be in play, but that parliamentary posture could very well be existing right now. We could be in those circumstances right now. Under Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution, the president has 10 days, Sundays excluded, to either sign or veto a bill after it has been passed by Congress. Now, got to remember that because of the massive nature of the combo bill, the $900 billion of COVID relief and the $1.4 trillion appropriations bill to keep the government open, the bill has not even been enrolled yet, meaning it has not even been sent to the president, so the 10-day countdown hasn't begun. Now, here's where the pocket veto comes into play. The latest the current congressional session can end is 11:59 a.m. on January 3rd. That's the drop-dead time for the 116th Congress, this current Congress. That's when it ends. A president can, in effect, veto a bill by keeping it in his pocket, by not signing it. He doesn't have to write veto on it. He puts it in his pocket, figuratively speaking, and it just dies there. And if it comes too close to the end of the congressional adjournment, Congress must adjourn without a return date specified, no later than 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, January 3rd. In other words, Congress would have to get the president the bill by today to prevent a pocket veto. If he doesn't get the bill by today, the president could run out the clock on the current congressional session, which would effectively block any potential override attempts. See, you can override a pocket veto. If the president doesn't sign it in 10 days, Congress has to come back, and that would be the killer here. Pelosi would have to call Congress back from their vacations over Christmas to deal with this. President would have to send it back to Capitol Hill with a veto. If he didn't do that in 10 days, then the bill would automatically become law. Now, the president didn't outright threaten a veto. It's unclear that the president's demands could even pass the House and the Senate. But it's nevertheless, it's something that a lot of people are recommending simply to, some people want to inconvenience the Congress, force them to come off their Christmas break to deal with this. Remember, as I've been pointing out, attached to the COVID bill is a $1.4 trillion spending package to fund the government through September 30th next year. If the president vetoes the COVID bill and the $1.4 trillion spending package, or if he fails to sign it by December 28th, there's a government shutdown. We still have that to deal with, and the Democrats love when that's on the table. So all of this, as Chad Pergram at Fox News writes, this has the potential to get really, really interesting. And there's any number of ways for the president to deal with this. But last night was classic. Here you have Congress passing one of these typical bailout bills, $600 for the average American. $600 is nothing. As one member of Congress said, it won't even pay 25%. It was Tulsi Gabbard. This won't even pay 25% of the average rent in my state of Hawaii. So Trump vetoes it and says nothing less than a possible veto. Rips it, says $600 not nearly enough. We need $2,000 per individual, $4,000 per couple. In doing this, here's Donald Trump, the outgoing president, sending a message to the American people, who he is, that even after having been allegedly rejected by the American people, he is still looking out for them. He is still representing them. He is still putting them first. I mean, it would be easy for an outgoing president to say, I don't give a damn. $600, 600 schmucks, whatever we're going to do, I'm out of here. But no, the president made a point, recorded a 4-minute video, master class in communications, and did something that I don't think there's another Republican on Capitol Hill in the House or Senate who would have done this. But Donald Trump did. He criticized Congress for giving coronavirus relief payments to family members of illegal aliens. They're going to get up to $1,800 each, folks, while you get $600. Trump also pointed out that the bill failed to provide aid to restaurants and small businesses, and that's another thing we're going to get in today. This is just what is happening to restaurants and small businesses in a lot of these blue states is inexcusable. And I've got two different stories today. I've got a story about somebody who was in Florida and was just amazed by how much different life is in Florida, which remains open, from the state she lives in Virginia. This is Ellie Reynolds, intern at the Federalist. I moved from lockdown Virginia to open Florida, and faces came back to life. It was till I came home to Florida, where COVID-19 restrictions are much freer and usually left to local government, that I noticed how different life was. My family went out to dinner the other night at a patio bar overlooking our downtown square, all lit up for Christmas. Families took Christmas photos in front of the lighted trees. Others caught rides in horse-drawn carriages circling the block. The patio was packed with guests from a wedding that had just taken place. It was a huge party, unlike the sweet but limited ceremonies my friends are forced to have in Virginia, where, of course, the governor is ramping out them. She says, I've flown in and out of the Orlando airport all my life. I have never seen it half as crowded as it was this month. I can only guess people are coming down to Florida because it's open. People are taking precautions, sure, but they're also continuing to live their lives. We've never shut down like this for any pandemic or anything in the history of our country. She said, we're having friends over, we're going to church, we're going out for dinner and drinks, we're supporting local farmers and artisans, we're celebrating marriages, we're smiling at strangers. Life goes on. Dennis Prager has a similar piece called The Sovietization of California. It's a graphically dynamic piece. So darkest days ahead of us don't have to be. It doesn't have to be the case. It's all how you decide to live your life. But if you live in a state where they're shutting you down, if you live in a state where you happen to own a small business that is a restaurant or a bar, good luck. Our hearts are with you. I got to take a brief break. We'll continue, and we'll start on the phones when we come back. Don't go away. And welcome back, Rush Limbaugh, with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. And as always, talent on loan from God. And that, by the way, has more meaning to me than ever before. Here is John in Jamestown, North Carolina, as we start on the phones. I'm glad you called, sir. Hi.
How you doing, Rush?
Fine,
first
sir.
Off, it is a total honor to speak with you, sir. I've listened for 30 years, and this is the best Christmas present I could have ever asked for, so thank you so much. I wanted to hit on a couple of points. It's interesting that Nancy Pelosi said months back that $1,200 was crumbs, but now $600 is pretty good. And it drives me nuts that we see this level of hypocrisy and we don't, I mean, it just continues. It just keeps getting worse. I mean, Trump was spot on in his 4-minute speech yesterday, and I hope, whether it be a pocket veto or a flat-on veto, that something is done to shoot this down because it's obscene. I mean, you know, $700 million to the Sudan, you know, $10 million to Pakistan, $1.3 billion to Egypt. It's crazy. It's crazy, Rush.
No, it is. But the thing is, as I said yesterday, welcome to the way things used to be. This is exactly why we elected Trump, to end this kind of thing. And he did. He ended it. We stopped giving away money, particularly to nations that do not support us. We turned it around. We said to Trump turned it around. We said to these nations, it's you who owe us, after a fashion. But that's why I made the point yesterday that this is the way it used to be. How quickly the establishment reasserted itself with this bill. This is the way it's always been. This is the way it's going to be again. And here comes Trump, while still president, stopping it somehow, threatening a pocket veto, threatening a straight-up veto. You know, here's the thing. After Trump called on Congress to increase the payments from $600 to $2,000, Pelosi tweeted she agrees with him. Oh, yeah. But then she had to lie and blame Trump for the $600 figure in the first place. Pelosi tweeted last night, the Republicans repeatedly refused to say what amount the president wanted for direct checks. Democrats are ready to bring this to the floor this week by unanimous consent. Let's do it. But Trump had offered a COVID relief deal a couple months ago that was twice as large. This is what you people probably know it. Trump offered and wanted a $1.8 trillion COVID relief bill, not $900 billion. He wanted $1.8 trillion. He wanted double the amount to go to the American people. And Pelosi and the Democrats said, ain't no way, buddy, not before the election. We're not giving you this. We're not going to let anything happen to show the American people you're looking out for them. And so Pelosi refused, didn't want any part of it. And now she's claiming that all of this is Trump's fault because Trump wouldn't specify the amount of direct payment that he wanted. Pelosi turned it down. She didn't want to do anything that might help Trump get reelected. And now she's more than eager to sign on to $2,000 because she is lying and making it look like the reason she didn't support this amount before the election is that Trump wouldn't specify it. And Congress couldn't work it out. That's not it. They weren't going to pass anything that would be beneficial to Trump before the. And by the way, that's politics 101. I'm not suggesting she should have. But when they're out there talking about how much they love the American people and they're looking out for the American people mattered more. It's like the Democrats looking out for the little guy. Democrats making sure the little guy doesn't get squashed and stomped out. It's BS. The Democrats are not looking out for the little guy. They haven't been looking out for the little guy since vested moneyed interests led by big tech became the bankrollers of the Democrat Party. I mean, it had to be frustrating as hell. Here is the president trying to do everything he can to help people through this because he's dealing with a bunch of blue state governors that are keeping their states locked down, which is preventing an all-out American economic recovery. It's being done, he knows, to harm him politically. He knows these Democrats are engaging in policy matters that are designed to harm the country, that are designed to retard the rate of growth of the U.S. economy so that it'll redound negatively to Trump. So he'll be blamed for it. And so that the Democrat nominee was all about presidential elective politics. But Pelosi's not the only one now cheering this $2,000. Chuck Schumer, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders. It's almost enough to make me think it's a bad idea. But
This is the big one.
And the fastest 3 hours in media continues to be demonstrated as fact. That may have been the fastest opening hour I can recall in a long time. But we have 2 more to go here. It's our Christmas show, the annual Christmas show, and I am so thankful I'm able to do it and share the sentiments and the joy and the festiveness of the season with all of you. We'll be right back and continue. Greetings and welcome back, my friends. It's great to have you here. This is Rush Limbaugh, the most listened to radio talk show in the country. You made it so. I have eternal, never-ending gratitude for all of you, for so much. You have meant so much to me. You've meant so much to my family. You have meant so much to the happiness and joy that I have been able to experience. You have been integral in my dreams coming true. My wildest dreams when I was a young kid pretending to be a DJ on the radio when I was 8 years old. There was a device called a Remco Caravel. It was a brand name. Remco was the brand name. Caravel was the name of their product. Somebody sent me one. We actually have one of these things back in one of the supply closets here. And it was the most amazing thing. It's plastic. It was about 3 feet long and 2 feet high. And it transmitted over AM within the confines of a small house. The quality was horrible, but it worked. All you had to do was set it for a frequency that was open. In other words, there wasn't a real radio station in your town that was broadcasting on that frequency, and you could do it. And so I pretended to be a DJ with this thing. My parents got it for me for Christmas one year. I pretended to be a DJ, and my mother actually had a radio that you could broadcast on a real radio. I mean, it was an amazing thing. I can't believe it was licensed to operate. We're talking here, folks, in the this would have been late 50s, around the turn of the century, 1960. And my mother would dutifully put a radio on her lap, and I would go upstairs where the bedroom was, and I would have my photo. And you had to have an external microphone to put into the speaker of the phonograph that you were playing records on. You had to move the microphone to your mouth when you were doing DJ stuff, and then you'd hold the microphone near the speaker for the phonograph to play the record. And my mother would dutifully sit down there and listen to this. And the quality was horrible. It didn't have a whole lot of power. It wasn't like listening to a real radio station, but it allowed me to pretend. It allowed me to get started on living out my dreams. And so many people have been a part of those dreams coming true. I knew what I wanted to do when I was 8 years old. How did I know? Well, you know the story. I hated school. It was prison. I just hated it. It was a room with windows, and I could see out the windows. I could see where I would rather be. Here I'm locked in this place. I'm having to learn about whatever you learn about in first grade, you know, how to paste things and stuff. The last place I wanted to be. I just looked at it as a denial of freedom. But being out there. So every morning getting ready to go to this prison, this school, my mother had the radio on and she's listening to the guy, a local jock, and this guy sounds like he's having fun doing whatever he's doing. He's playing records, he's doing commentary, the weather forecast. It sounds like he's having fun. I said, that's how I want my day to be. I don't want to begin my day in drudgery and something I don't want to do, but I had no choice. You have to go to school. It's either that or the truant officer comes and it's even worse for you. But that was how I decided I wanted to be in radio. I had a natural affinity for liking music and wanting to be the guy on the radio playing it for people and so forth. But up until that point in my life, I had quit pretty much everything else that I had tried. Like I was a tenderfoot Boy Scout for a year. That's unheard of. You move on from being a tenderfoot. You don't have to do anything. But I was a tenderfoot, whatever the least amount you had to do to stay a Boy Scout, I did. The first camp out, I got the Gold Brick Award. The Gold Brick Award went to the person least useful on the camp out. Well, it was nothing I didn't want to do. It's something, you got to go do this. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, you got to do. If you're going to be the Boy Scouts, you're going to go on a camp out. It's going to be cold. You got to learn about campfires. You got to learn about brushing leaves up at the bottom of your tent so that it keeps the cold air out. You got to learn survivalist kind of stuff. Because back then, Soviet Union nuking, this was a real possibility. So I just am not into this. Well, why did you join the Boy Scout? Well, because other people thought I needed to do it. Anyway, things like that. I had quit everything. But radio, I didn't quit. And even though the family didn't understand it, the fact that I hadn't quit it was enough for them to encourage me to stay in it. And I did. And all that happened. And it's been so rewarding. It has been so so meaningful to me. And there have been so many people that have made it possible, among them all of you. And so I take the occasion of the last day of the year that I'm here at our Christmas show to try to thank you and to share with you the depth of gratitude and appreciation I feel for all of you and what you have. And I, by the way, this is not, it's not something that's just perfunctory to do. I genuinely have a deep appreciation for all of you. I feel the bond of connection that exists between all of you and me. It's why, by the way, I recognized immediately that Donald Trump could win the presidency if he was serious about it. When he began his campaign in 2015, when I saw those first rallies, I had lived that. The Rush to Excellence tour, the first 2 years of this program, I did those things that Trump was doing. And to somewhat similar crowd sizes, 10,000, 15,000, I think was the largest I'd had in Sacramento, but they were there. And it was every weekend for 2 years, 48 weekends. I didn't do holiday weekends, but it was the way I was building the program and establishing a relationship with all of the affiliates that were signing on and carrying the program. And I had lived it, and I saw the way people were reacting to Trump. And because I had had the same thing happen to me, I said, this guy can go, although he can win it. And I expected him to. And he did. And also, I learned that this is something exceedingly important for Donald Trump even today. When the media has nothing to do with making you, when the media has nothing to do for your success, nothing to do with it. For example, there are a lot of people that the media for some reason gloms onto and starts doing puff pieces about, and showering with praise and telling everybody how big they are, how important they are, when nobody knows who they are. The media makes these people. And then there are others like me who snuck up on everybody because I didn't come from the traditional places that successful establishment people come from. So I snuck up on everybody. Nobody knew who I was. And when my program began on August 1st, 1988, it immediately took off. And the media had nothing to do with it. All they had to do was report on it. But the important thing about that is if the media doesn't have anything to do with making you, they can't break you. Well, they can try. But if you, as a personal or a public figure in media or in anything that you're doing, if you develop a successful business enterprise that involves a significant portion of the public supporting you, and if you've built that yourself without any media assistance, they can't break that bond. Only you can. And this is something that Donald Trump has proven. The media has tried to kill the guy for 4 years, and they can't, because his support is genuine. It is real. It isn't fake. It isn't manufactured. It did not end up being created by the media, who were telling people, hey, this Trump guy is great. You need to experience Trump. You need to listen to this guy. You need to watch this. They didn't do that. Trump built himself with his Apprentice TV show, with any number of media efforts that he engaged in. By the time he ran for the presidency, he was already well known, and the media loved him when he was just an average guy in media, not oriented toward politics, not thought of as running for office. They loved him. But then he runs for office, and of course we know what happened. But they tried to kill him for 4 years, and they couldn't. They're still trying to wipe him out, and they can't. So much so that the Republican Party is now Donald Trump's. The Republican Party may as well be the MAGA Party. And it's been the same for me. In a much smaller context. The media it's been a combination of things. They have attempted to destroy me, and they have been amused by me, and they have been supportive at times, and they've been destructive at times. But the point is, they have not broken this bond. They have not been able to convince you that I'm not worth it, that I shouldn't be getting your attention. Now, they have been able to limit the growth by convincing people who don't listen to the program of things that are not true about me. But they have not been able to break the bond. And even despite all of that, this audience has grown. The ratings, we're not supposed to talk about this, but the ratings that happened in the month before the election across the country for this program were unprecedented. Even during the high points of this program, we didn't even come close to the ratings we had in the month before the election this year. Larger than ever, like from noon to 3 in New York City, the most listened to show. Now, we're always the most listened to talk show, but this was most listened to, period. The most listened to stations in New York are usually music stations, the top 3 or 4. Then here we come. But this, we were the top of the heap. And it couldn't have happened in a better year, and it couldn't have happened in a more rewarding period of time. And so one of the things that I've attempted to use today's program for is to convey my gratitude, my appreciation, and my thanks for everything that you've meant. You've enabled my dreams to come true. I'm not saying that I had nothing to do with it. Don't misunderstand. But it wouldn't have happened without you. If it weren't for any of you, all of this would just be an academic exercise. And I'm so appreciative, more appreciative of it than I ever thought I could be, given the circumstances of my life this year. And so I have the opportunity here of using my own program to try to convey all of the love and the gratitude that I have for, well, it's the numbers of millions of people are just astounding, particularly for largely AM Radio. Let me take a brief time out here, folks, before I start choking up. I'll be back here in just a second. We'll continue with you on the phones right after this. Okay, let's go back to the phones. This is Robert in Hughesville, Maryland. It's great that you called, and welcome to the program, sir. Hi.
Merry Christmas, Rush, and God bless you and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We all very much appreciate that.
You know, I got to thank you for teaching me how to read the grain in these greens. But my question for you today is, if Mrs. Loeffler and Mr. Perdue in Georgia would commit to challenging the electors on, I believe it was January 6th, I could be wrong, if that wouldn't maybe help their case, I mean, as me and you both know, all bets are won on the first tee, and I believe this election is fixed already. But it would certainly have to help their case if they could come up and challenge those. Say they would challenge the electors, at least the ones in Georgia, would perhaps, help the Trump voters to come out and try to head off this debacle. But
why? What are you hearing? You're in Hughesville, Maryland. Obviously, you can't vote in this. What are you hearing, that there's trouble in Georgia and that the Loeffler and Perdue have to come out and do something to generate support from Republican voters?
Rush, my personal opinion is they're rhinos, just like the rest of Mitch McConnell. They're just rhinos. But we're all pretty upset about having this election stolen. I mean, and that's I believe the fix is in on this. But anything that they could do to help stand up for us Trump supporters, which they haven't done, I think would certainly help, because we both know if they lose the Senate, we're in deep doo-doo.
Well, here's the thing. Now, we can talk about these two people. Perdue, it was a year ago, I think. Catherine and I had dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Trump, President and Mrs. Trump, at Mar-a-Lago. Right before Christmas, like 2 or 3 days, maybe the weekend before Christmas. And Senator Perdue and his wife were there at the table. I don't think you should have any doubts about Senator Perdue's support for President Trump. You seem to think he's a rhino, and I understand the tendency that people have to categorize people this way. But I got to tell you something. It's worth the risk, because if these two lose, it's sit around and batten down the hatches until 2022, when these people screw so much up that the Republicans win in the midterm elections. But that's 2 years of abject torture that we're going to have subjected to us, because there's going to be no stopping Biden and the Democrats. And believe me, they're going to be hell-bent on turning this country as radical left as they can. And the one way to stop it is with the election of these two. It's the only thing. Even if it doesn't work, it's still something that ought to prevail. Now, I've got an interesting story here. John Solomon, Just the News. Trump advisor Peter Navarro is urging Georgia, which he is calling a cesspool here, to delay the Senate runoff election until February. Navarro says that Republican concerns about the state's November election need to be addressed before the next vote. And this kind of dovetails with what you're getting at here, is that, well, if the election in Georgia is already tainted and we can't trust the results, then why are we going to trust the next election? And a lot of people have had this thought. Peter Navarro, he's a key White House advisor to President Trump, is urging Georgia officials to delay by a month the January 5th runoff races in that state that are going to determine control of the U.S. Senate. And he is saying this because Republican concerns about the November election and the irregularities there that need to be resolved first. He says it's a cesspool. Now, Navarro is the president's chief advisor, manufacturing and trade issues. He recently issued a report as a private citizen entitled Immaculate Deception that cataloged 6 categories of irregularities in the presidential election that have concerned Republicans. And he just told John Solomon that Georgia encountered problems in all 6 categories and that Georgia needs to restore confidence in their electorate, especially Republicans, before proceeding with the all-important Senate runoffs. It's an excellent point. Now, I don't expect anybody to pay any attention to it, but still he's raising the issue that if we had problems with the November election and we're still not dealing with them, why do we have confidence in the runoff? We need to delay it. Got to take a break. Back in a minute. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. A household name in all 4 corners of the world. Rush Limbaugh. This is the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Let me share with you this piece before I get back to the phones. Dennis Prager today at the dailysignal.com website. The Sovietization of California. And I just want to share with you some pull quotes, not read the entire thing, because it's well done, it's well written, and it's extremely relevant and poignant. He said, for most Americans, the very name California elicited excitement, wonder, even envy of Californians, most of all, freedom. While America always represented freedom within America, California exemplified freedom most of all. Now, somebody who grew up in Missouri and spent the first 20 years of my life there, and I never went to California, wouldn't get to go to California till, let's see, 1984. So I would have been 33 before I ever stepped foot in California. And it was not Southern California, it was Sacramento, which turned out to be one of the greatest moves, greatest breaks I'd ever had. But I can confirm what he's saying. California, I knew it from television. I knew it from movies. I had this image of it. The people that lived there, I thought were hipper, and I thought California was just an advanced culture and state. And it was in many ways. And for most of that time, the Republicans ran that state. It's such an amazing thing what's happened politically to California, and actually so rapidly. Yet he continues here, Prager continues, here I am sitting in a state where corruption reigns and where for 9 months normal life has been shut down. Schools have been closed. Small businesses have been destroyed in unprecedented numbers. Now, during my last 5 days in Florida, a state governed by the pro-freedom party, I went anywhere I wanted. First and foremost, I could eat both inside and outside restaurants. At one of them, when I stood up to take photos of people dining, a patron who recognized me walked over and said, I assume you're just taking pictures of people eating in a restaurant. Yep, that's exactly what I was doing. We don't see it in California. It's not permitted anymore. I even took my 2 grandchildren to a bowling alley, which was filled with people enjoying themselves playing myriad arcade games as well as bowling. None of that's allowed almost anywhere in California. It's becoming a police state rooted in deception and irrationality. Restaurants have been shut down except for takeout orders, even for outdoor dining, and for no scientific reason. After ordering Los Angeles County restaurants closed, the health authorities of Los Angeles County acknowledged in court that they had no evidence that outdoor dining was dangerous. Yet they ordered restaurants closed, even to outdoor dining, solely in order to keep people home. As a graduate student majoring in communism, Mr. Prager writes, during the Cold War, I would travel through the countries known as the Soviet satellites. Go to Poland, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria. in the middle of my trips, I would stop in Austria to breathe free air. Never did I imagine that I would ever experience anything analogous to the Soviet Union in America, the land of the free, the land of the Statue of Liberty, the Liberty Bell. But I did yesterday when leaving Florida and returning to California. This is the second article that I have shared with you today about people leaving Florida after experiencing the freedom and joy of being there for 4 or 5 days and going home to their respective states. One woman back to Virginia. Here's Prager going back home to California. And in both instances, they are revealing the freedoms, the availability of services and restaurants and nothing being shut down in Florida and how life is going on. And it's how unnecessary to live the way they're being forced to live in Virginia and in California, 2 states run by Democrats. Prager says there's no question that America's becoming, if it hasn't already become, 2 countries. Uh-oh, are we talking about something here? Are we talking about something that I got ripped to shreds for last week? There's no question America's becoming, if it hasn't already become, 2 countries, one that values liberty, from small businesses being allowed to operate to people being allowed to say what they believe, and one that has contempt for liberty, from eating in restaurants to free speech. I am asked almost daily by friends around the country and by callers to my national radio show whether I intend to stay in California. You know, were it not for all those close friends who live here and the synagogue that I and a few friends founded, the answer would be no. But at a given point, I'm sure that I will leave this Soviet satellite for a free state. The bigger and far more important question is, how long will the Soviet states of America and the free states of America remain the United States of... Oh, are we raising the subject again? Here is Mr. Prager bringing up the dreaded S word that your host was beaten up so roundly over. I wasn't even suggesting it. I was simply referencing all the other people who are. How long will the Soviet states of America and the free states of America remain the United States of America? It's Dennis Prager's piece. Let's go back to the phones. Tom in St. Augustine, Florida. You're next. Great to have you with us, sir. Hello.
Hi, Rush. Johnny Donovan says it best. A tradition unlike any other.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And I did attend your Rush Excellence Tour in Orlando, and I've been with you a very long time. I wanted to ask you, what do you think, or how will the Republicans react with the president going along with AOC and Pelosi? I just read on Politico they're going to push back. What are your thoughts?
Wait a minute now. You want to know how Republicans will react if the president goes along with AOC and Pelosi on what?
The $2,000 check for myself and my wife.
Pelosi's idea was $600. It was Trump. Now, you're making me wonder if you're setting me up here.
Well, let me rephrase it then. Trump came out last night and said he wants $2,000. Pelosi came back and said, yes, we're with you. My question, sir, is how will the Republicans react to the $2,000?
Oh, do you think they will oppose it or support it because it's wasteful, because it's government giving money away to people and that shouldn't happen? Or are you worried that they'll judge it in some other way rather than the comparison of $600 to $2,000?
That's a very good question. I believe Senator Ron Johnson opposed the $1,200. He was very vocal about it in the media. And so I believe the Republicans are going to oppose it for whatever reason, especially now that it seems like the president, Pelosi, and AOC are on the same train.
Interesting perspective. Look, I appreciate the call. Grab soundbite number 7. Rand Paul weighed in on this in a way on Fox and Friends this morning. Katie Pavlich, a fill-in co-host, asked him this question. President Trump last night said he wants $2,000 checks going out to the American people. Is that something the Senate and Congress can do before next week?
I saw the president's speech. He was unhappy with all the spending to Pakistan and Sudan and all these far-flung places where we aren't taking care of our own. The problem is if we were to get more money to Americans, we would add it on top. I hope he vetoes it. But the only way I would vote for any spending or any additional spending is if it came out of existing spending. So I part ways with the president on giving people free money. The cash payments is a ridiculous, terrible, foolish, no good idea because you're just printing out money to give to people. Why not do it all the time? Give people 1,000, 10,000. Why not 1 million? It's a terrible idea.
So Rand Paul continuing the logic that he had opined with yesterday. He says, where does this stop? It's kind of like the minimum wage. If you're going to raise the minimum wage from 15 to 20 an hour, why not 25? Why not 30? And at some point, even advocates say, well, you can't give that much away. And when Rand Paul is pointing out is that $600 to $1,000, it's still money we don't have. And if you're going to start giving money away, then why are there any limits on it? Why not just give everybody $100,000 to be done with it? And, of course, we're now $30 trillion in debt. We don't have the money that we are giving away now. We haven't had the money for anything we're doing, starting with the Obama administration, even prior to that. We haven't had the money for any of this. And what's become blatantly obvious is that all of Washington doesn't care. We're doing a budget we don't have the money. I mean, we technically can't afford anything that we're doing. We have a printing press. Now, I've heard all of my life that the national debt was eventually going to eat this country alive and destroy I heard this from my grandparents growing up, that my parents. They had lived through the Great Depression, and they were terribly alarmed at all of this debt. Well, now we're $30 trillion in debt, and there doesn't seem to be anybody concerned with it. We even the current administration, if you go back earlier this year, we shut down the country because we're facing 2 million deaths, we're told. 2 million deaths, according to computer projections, COVID virus. If we don't shut the country down, if we shut the country down, it became clear that we were going to have to start bailing people out after 2 months of a shutdown. We didn't have the money for that. And we don't have the money now for any of this. But we're printing it and we're spending it. And if somebody's going to print it and spend it, then do you want to get in on that or not? Who wants to be the one to raise their hand and say, wait a minute, we don't have any of this money. What are we doing? People are dying out there. People are starving out there. People are experiencing things they've never experienced because we've shut down the economy on them. The government has shut down their economy under this silly belief that this is the only way to stop the virus. It isn't. It isn't going to stop the virus. Shutdowns never have. We've never done this. But Trump comes along. There's a bill. Congress passes a bill. That happened. It contains $600 per American while giving far more money away in total to all of these other countries. And the American people are getting a tail end. So Trump announces, the hell with this. I think every American ought to get $2,000, $4,000 for a couple. So with just the politics of it, just within those confines, yeah, to me, that's the president winning. It's not the president agreeing with Pelosi and AOC. It's them agreeing with him. Now, if your question is, does Trump doing something that the Democrat leadership says, right on, dude, we're with you, does that hurt him? You tell me. The American people are going to, what are they going to say? I don't want $600 and I don't want $2,000. I don't want anything. I want you people to stop spending this. Is that what the American people are going to do? Because I'll guarantee you they're not. You give them a choice of $600 or $2,000, they're going to take the $2,000 and they're going to be grateful for whoever they think is responsible for it, which in this case would be Trump.
Rush.
Welcome back. Great to have you with us, Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network. So what do you think? You think faced with $600, $2,000, or zero, what do you think the American people would choose? And if it was Pelosi that said $600, then a Democrat leader. Look at, folks, that's the way things were. The one thing you've got to understand about this, when you have the Democrats now running things in their mind, Pelosi's already acting like, she does run the House, and they're acting like they're going to win the Senate. So here comes this relief bill after the election, and it's got a measly $600 in it for the American people. All this other money for poor various countries, various just wasteful spending. Trump comes along and says, the hell with $600 for the American people. We're going to make it $2,000 and $4,000 for a couple. This is the way it was. This is why Trump was elected. And this signifies a return to the way. This is what the Democrats want. This is what the establishment want. This is what it's going to be going forward. This is how the government's going to operate, and it's going to be on steroids. You tell me. You want 600, you want 2,000 or 4,000, you want nothing. You want to tell them to pound sand? You want to tell them to get responsible in their spending? You tell me. Here's Randy in San Luis Obispo, California. Great to have you, sir. Hello.
Yeah, good morning, Rush. Hey, listen, blessings and prayers to you. You're the first person that's been willing to have the wherewithal to go against the political correctness. I'm a physician about 200 miles north of Los Angeles. I was born and raised in L.A. I trained in L.A. hospitals, the county hospitals down there. And I've been dismayed to see that no one seems to be connecting the dots with regard to immigration, illegal immigration, and the COVID-19 pandemic. I follow the sites, the Los Angeles County sites, as far as hospitalizations, and have been doing it ever since March. And, 72% of the hospitalizations in Los Angeles are Hispanics. 71% of the ICU hospitalizations are Hispanics. And that's from March 1st to December 19th.
Randy, I need to interrupt you. I took your call prematurely. I'm out of time, but I really want to talk to you. Can you hold on through the break? It's going to be about 10 minutes. Or if you'd rather not hold on, give Mr. Snerdley your number. We'll call you back, because I do want to hear about this.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important.
All right, we'll see you. Work it out with Mr. Snerdley how we're going to stay in touch with you. I'll take a break here. We'll be back and continue in a second.
Right.
Okay, we got a brief break here at the top of the hour, and we will come back in mere moments and continue with today's excursion into broadcast excellence. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, there we have the headline right now. Democrats to propose 2,000 stimulus checks after Trump calls for it. So they're eager to sign on to it. Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. It's Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. Telephone number 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, we have Randy here from San Luis Obispo who held on through the break. He is a doctor in California for much of his life and has studied the connection between the high incidence of COVID and the illegal immigration traffic coming over the border, and Biden talking about this opening up even more. I want to go back to him now. Welcome, Randy. I'm glad you held on. Continue to make your point here.
Yeah, thanks, Rush. And I want to make it real clear right at the start here. My wife is Hispanic. I have no problem, nothing against Hispanic people, so I just want to make that real clear. But they are the large majority of people that are being hospitalized in Los Angeles, which means they're basically a reservoir, if not the main reservoir, for passing the COVID virus around. And that's because they can't work distantly. They can't work remotely. The vast majority are boots on the ground, agriculture, domestics, chefs in restaurants and cafeterias, and they also tend to live in very dense homes where you can pass viruses around very quickly and easily. And if anybody in one of those households is illegal, it's probably unlikely that any of them are likely to go in to seek care until they're very, very sick. The interesting thing was back in, I think it was March or April, I started thinking about this, and I looked, the Pew Research showed that the large majority of illegal immigration was along the entire southern border of the United States. California, Texas, and Florida were the highest numbers, but it was pretty much all the southern states. And as you've watched over the course of time, that has kind of, gone up to all the throughout the United States, and that's obviously because of migration, and then of course a passage of the virus. So, I kept waiting for somebody to make this point, and I've never heard anybody making this point. And to me, it seems very obvious, and it's particularly scary when I saw last night on the news them showing these caravans ramping up down in Central America, kind of waiting for Biden to take office and thinking that they can start coming across the border again. I mean, if we are already overwhelmed, which we are, I mean, that's going to be the final deluge. These people coming across a lot of them have the virus, or will be in situations where they'll pass the virus around. So I'm glad I had a chance to bring this forward to you, because it's extremely worrisome to me if the borders start opening up more.
Well, while I have you here, I have the stories that you're talking about involving Biden, and I've got one from the New York Post and one from the Hill.com. The first one, Biden says fast immigration changes could cause a rush at the border. Now, this was during his press briefing yesterday, and he said that restoring the U.S. immigration system would be an overwhelming priority. And folks, and I know, Randy, you'll agree with me, by restoring our immigration system, he means he will no longer enforce immigration law. That's what he means. He means he's going to go back to the Democrat Party interpretation of immigration, and that is there's no limits on it. But Biden also said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he's not going to be able to do away with the southern border on his first day in office. He was sending a signal to leftists because doing that might cause a rush of 2 million people coming across the border. But he said that he'll get it done within the next 6 months. And he says it's going to cost a lot of money to not enforce the immigration law. Now, all of these illegal aliens, will they be tested for COVID before they're allowed to enter the United States, or are they just going to be given priority to get a vaccine? What do you think?
Well, of course, that's a very big and important question. They've been prioritizing it to frontline caregivers. In fact, I'm scheduled to get my vaccine next week, and then kind of down the line, and they talk about essential workers. I hope essential workers means the people that I'm talking about. But I really think if you were going to aim at one particular source, you want to get the source that is passing this around most frequently, and that of course is the illegal immigrants and the people who have to work in person and they can't do it from home. So I would hope that they would start immunizing those people, because it's actually very much akin to back in the early 1900s when they tried to get control of a yellow fever. What they found when they finally realized that it was a mosquito that was passing this, they started putting anti-mosquito agents into all the ponds and lakes and the places where they breed, and that is how they finally got control over yellow fever. And this is kind of a similar thing, and I don't mean to be in any way degrading people and saying they're like mosquitoes, but just like the mosquitoes that were the reservoir for the disease, in this same situation, the people that are the reservoir for the disease are the groups that should be, I think, approached most aggressively and on, you know, in the very
well. It's one thing is, and I could be wrong about this. My perception is that in all discussions of COVID-19 and reading where it's the United States is the epicenter now, more people are dying from it here than anywhere else per capita. More people are contracting it here than anywhere else in the world per capita. But in all of this, we never hear about why and how. And other than the people who are attempting to shut down the economy by saying that it is spreading in these ways that really can't be established or proven. And it's being used as an excuse to shut down economies and shut down various businesses. It's being used to exert control over the American people by primarily Democrat governors and Democrat mayors. But the one thing I was going to say that doesn't come up, which is why I was fascinated talking to you, is the role illegal immigration plays in the spread of this. I know you're not comparing people to mosquitoes. Don't misunderstand here. But still, if you have a known source that is a problem, doesn't it make sense to do something about it?
Well, that's exactly my point, and that's exactly my concern. And you know, I still have a lot of friends down in Los Angeles, and you know, I am in contact with them. I mean, they're just you know, who are in the medical profession, and I mean, they're just overwhelmed. And you know, I can't imagine, as bad as it is, I can't imagine it getting worse. And quite frankly, you know, I think we're approaching, and this is my opinion, I think we're approaching the apex of this. And I think, you know, if you keep doing what we're doing from the standpoint of getting vaccines out there, you know, you'll get to herd immunity more rapidly. And herd immunity is not a strategy; it's just a reality. You know, the way that epidemics and pandemics end is with herd immunity, and so the faster that we can get herd immunity, the more we can get control of this thing.
And I remember I happened to be somebody who brought that up back in March or April. I was ridiculed profoundly for it, and as were a lot of other people who suggest, because it requires people to be infected. It requires the spread of the disease, but among people who are going to survive it. And already, correct me if I'm wrong, do we still not have, is it still not true that the survivability rate is 99%?
Yeah, you're right. In fact, because I'm in the just over 70 age group, you know, I was just reading on it just yesterday. It's still 94.5% was the survival rate in the I think it was in the statistic I saw. I think it was 65 and up. So I mean, you know, it's still very high survival rate even in, you know, the older age group. And yes, for everybody all over, it's 99 and a fraction. I don't remember what the exact number is, %. So I mean, it's still very survivable. But the fact is that you know, you can at least kind of get some kind of control, so you flatten the curve, as they talk about, so you don't have the hospitals overwhelmed by getting more rapidly to herd immunity. And I think the way that you do it now is that we do, in fact, have a vaccine. But the thing is that you got to get those people vaccinated, and you got to get them out there. And if they're kind of hiding away because they're illegal and they don't want to be identified as illegal and suffer the repercussions, then they won't come forward. You won't get control of the reservoir, and it will drag on longer.
Doctor, thank you for the call. That's Randy in San Luis Obispo, California. I appreciate the perspective. Meanwhile, on the same subject, Susan Rice, who has been chosen by Biden as his domestic policy chief, told a Spanish-language news service on Monday, and again I'm paraphrasing here, that the border will not be able to be erased overnight due in large part to the damage done over the last 4 years. But Rice said the Biden team are committed to erasing it as soon as possible. Members of Joe Biden's White House transition effort cautioned on Tuesday he would not undo all of Trump's changes to the immigration system overnight, explained that incoming administration officials would need time to pursue the effort. They really want to roll back everything. Trump tightened down illegal immigration. They're admitting that they want to reopen it back up, but they cautioning everybody going to take time because of the possibility of COVID spreading wildly, but they're still going to do it. Susan Rice, the president-elect's domestic policy chief. We will be able to take some steps to change policies right away. Others will take time to put in place. Situation at the border will not transform overnight, due in large part to the damage done the last 4 years. The damage done the last 4 years was to clean it up. The damage done the last 4 years was to fix it. Elections have consequences. I got to take a quick time out. Be back and continue right after this. Back to the phones we go. This is Angie, Big Lake, Minnesota. Great to have you with us. You're up next here on the EIB Network. Hello.
Hi, Rush. I just want to say I'm praying for you every day, and I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I have a comment, and it kind of piggyback on earlier when you were talking about the Georgia runoff with another caller. And what I think is, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but I really think that this is a takeover. And this runoff in January, get out and vote. People want to get out in March and really take it to the streets. And Trump is trying to do rallies and whatnot. And I think it's just, unfortunately, a big waste of our time. The Dominion machines are here. They're in place. They're here to stay. Nobody's changing it. All the lawsuits that we're bringing forward, they just keep declining. We have thousands of people, election workers, poll workers that have come forward and said, what they've seen. It's just everything's declined. Dominion is here. They're not going to change it. And if we can't clean up the election in November, it's really pointless for the January. I think this is a takeover. I know everybody wants to get out there and get their votes in, and I think people are forgetting that these machines are programmable, and they're going to continue with, no matter how many votes come in for Trump, no matter how many rallies he does, they're going to take the votes. They're going to steal the seats, and we're going to watch it happen because we don't have any help. We just have Trump, who's one person, and he has so many people in his own party that aren't helping. And I get text messages from the Trump team, about let's, vote or let's get out, and rally. Unfortunately, the American people like myself and us regular citizens aren't in any position of authority to do anything. We can take it to the streets, but ultimately these machines are programmable, and if you go and vote, they're going to steal the seats anyway. That's my comment, and I just feel like, I know everybody is upset. We all are. I am. My family is. And Trump says, well, I'll run again in 4 years. Well, it ain't going to matter if he runs again in 4 years or not.
Why not?
What happened in 2016 when he won, and they did not plan on that, they're never going to let that happen again. And we're watching it. And they're going to take this election. They're going to take the Georgia runoff. And we will never. It'll be pointless. I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer, but I feel like I'm the realistic here.
No. So what are you going to do? I mean, you're basically just established a scenario where we are cooked. We're finished. It's over. And there's nothing we can do because there's no way we can ever win another election.
Correct. I mean, at this point, if our president can't overturn what has happened with some of these states, if we can't even go to the Supreme Court, if we can't even go to the judges, to these courts in these states and present evidence of things that have happened, of things that have been fraudulent, and nobody will listen, nobody will look, nobody will do anything. The president can't even do anything. He's bringing lawsuits. I mean, and he's not gaining any ground. You know, I mean, we're watching this happen. Biden didn't even. He didn't. What were his rallies? A couple people here and there. He wasn't even doing rallies. Trump had the whole country just united and excited and get out and vote, and we did. And it doesn't matter because these machines are in place. And this was the machine that Hugh Chavez said he never wanted to lose another election. And now they're here. And if we don't get Trump in the White House, if he can't get this all overturned and we don't have him for 4 more years to remove this Dominion system, Biden's not going to remove it. Nobody's going to remove it. The virus was sent here from China, on purpose, I believe. This is my belief. And then these machines are in place. They were programmed. We have witnesses that people have risked their lives.
Yeah, I know. We've got
come forward.
Hundreds of thousands of them.
Yeah, and they've come forward with what they've seen, and we can't gain any ground. So I believe it's a takeover. I think we're watching it happen.
Take over by who? You got 25 seconds. Take over by who?
By the left. By Biden, by the left. It's not even Biden. It's people that we don't even know behind the scenes.
All right. Okay. Understood. I'm glad you called Debbie Downer. Angie is her name. She's in Big Lake, Minnesota. And we'll take a brief break here, come back and continue right after this. Don't go away. And we're back. Rush Limbaugh, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Studies of Everything It's Important. See, here's Aaron in Provo, Utah. Welcome. Glad to have you with us. Hi.
Hello, Rush. Hope you're doing good today.
Well, moderately so. I got. For the most part, yeah.
You've been my father-in-law Dwayne's favorite for 30 years, and now mine. He's home suffering from emphysema and hopefully listening right now. I just want to get to it real fast. We were part of the 5.1 million people that lost everything in the mortgage crisis under Obama and Biden. We still voted Dem in the primaries, but not for Biden, of course. And it was our first time voting. But after realizing it was going to be Obama's third term, and how willing they were to smear and cheat their own party members and then to destroy the economy again, we ended up voting for Trump. I just wanted to thank you for helping us see that Trump was going to be the right choice for our family. Even though we've been attacked in public and on Twitter and everything else, called names and racist, and, I still feel like it was the right choice. And I just wanted to say thanks to you for helping us see that.
Well, you're more than welcome. How did I do it?
Just by sort of opening our eyes to what was really happening. It was our first time ever voting. We weren't really sure. We were just kind of going with what everybody around us was going with, I guess. And when I started to listen to your show with my father-in-law, I started realizing the right choice was not Democrats. These guys are nasty people, and they're just not what we need right now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I've for 30 whatever number years, folks, I consider how to say this. On one hand, looking at me from outside, you think, wow, overwhelming success. successful radio program, most listened to show history. AM radio, people thought it was dead. Limbaugh comes along and it's saved, they say. And I can't, I'm not going to sit here and deny that. But folks, there's a large part of me that feels like I have failed in such a major way in a political sense. I've had 30 years here to try to convince people, to try to persuade people, to try to encourage people to think, critically think on their own, to realize the difference between conservatism and liberalism, the difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party as it relates to conservative versus liberal. I know there's rhinos, and I know that the Republican Party is in the establishment wing of Washington. It's not that different from the Democrats, but conservatism versus liberalism. And then I got some help, starting in 1996. Here comes Fox. Prior to that, talk radio with other hosts. Then we got the blogosphere. And there's an entire conservative media now called the alternative media. But it's big, and it is successful. And even with all of that, there's still far more people than should be voting for Democrats, voting for the left. And I chalk it up in part to having failed to convince people, persuade people of the truth. This guy is a success story. Well, Mr. Snerdley is saying we wouldn't even be in the fight if it were. Yeah, that's probably true, but I was in the fight, and I am in the fight. And like this last caller, not the guy, but the guy, the lady, the Debbie Downer. She could be. It's a stretch, but she could have been a very classic seminar caller. You talk about somebody who might have succeeded in depressing vote turnout. What if she was a seminar caller? What if she was not really being truthful about what? Now, I know she sounded truthful. I know she sounded very bummed out. I know she sounded like she really believed it. What if she wasn't? These are all things that as a host you have to judge and decide at a moment's notice whether to put up with it, whether to deal with it, whether to call her out on it. But she couldn't have been a better seminar caller to discourage people from voting if that's what she was. I don't think she was. I think she was dead certain and serious and well, you heard her. I mean, she's nothing was going to do. Well, no, you can't erase what we've won and so forth. And I know it may have taken tampered with voting machines and fraudulent turnout, all this stuff in order to take it away from us. But look, I thought it's a very thin line here because I'm not trying to evoke any sympathy from anybody, but there's a part of me just continually amazed that the Democrat Party, that the left gets even 30% of any vote. But then I have to grab myself and say, Rush, you're missing reality. Reality is the lifelong meaning of the D next to somebody's name, the unions that they have constant support over, the money. And so I understand all this. It's just that I've had my opportunities to get into people's minds. I've had the opportunity to influence the way people think about these things, and it's what reminded me of it was this guy, this current caller. I got through to him. And but there's so many things that I look at that I don't understand. If I'm successful here because of A, B, C, and D, then how in the world is my side losing, especially after these 4 years? Now, let me answer it myself. What do we have these last 4 years? We had nothing but full-fledged, all-out character assassination of our guy and all of us. No need to recount it all. The Russian collusion hoax, the coup, all it never ended. But then again, we countered it every day. We blew it up. We told everybody it's a bunch of hooey. It's a bunch of lies. And yet, there are smart people who believe it that I have been unable to reach. That I have been unable to change their minds. Anyway, let me it's about being a Debbie Downer. I don't meaning to do that. Let me take a brief break because I have to. We got to do it. I'll be back here in just a second, folks. Don't go away. Okay, let's Minneapolis is next. This is Kim. Welcome to the EIB Network. Hello.
It is truly a surprising honor, Mr. Limbaugh, and I will do my best to do brevity as I express to you why I listen to you. But it is truly an honor to hear your voice. I remember back a while ago, you've always said that you would never get married. And to me, when you say never, that just opens up a door for God to show you that you will. And Catherine has changed your life so much. And you and I think alike. Well, not all alike, but...
You know, she really has. You don't know the half of it. You don't... You don't, but your instincts are right on the money.
We even think so much down to pouring the cream before the coffee. And this summer in January, me and my son were out in Colorado with my daughter, spending time. We were moving her out there, and like clockwork, I plug you in and I turn you on, and I had my kids come down on me. Why are you listening to him? Why are you listening to this? And I mean, we all think alike politically and stuff like that. And that forced me to take an honest look why I really listened to you. And it, like I said, it comes down to, I already know what you're going to say sometimes. It even comes down to pouring the cream before the coffee that we do alike. And I realized at that point that I just need to hear your voice. I listen to you because you remind me of my dad. You are a dad to me. And I don't hear your voice, and I'm down on my knees praying for you all the time. And I try to lift you up in prayer. And it's like the definition of love. How do you spell love? And it's called T-I-M-E. Because there's nothing that you have that I want more than just to hear your voice. And I just wanted to let you know that I listen to you because I need to hear your voice, because you remind me of a dad. And there's only one thing that I would ever regret today is that, like being a Paul Harvey Jr., that I won't be a Limbaugh Jr. That's how much I look upon you, sir. And like I said, this is a really surprising honor that I was able to just pick up the phone and get through. But I just wanted to let you know that, sir.
I honestly am speechless here. I cannot thank you anywhere near appropriately for that. I can especially relate to it. I know how important it was for me to be reminded of my dad. And many people and things over the course of my life have. And the same thing with my mother as well. Well, folks, this is here I share with you the fact I think that I have failed, and here you all come riding to the rescue. I've got people, no, you haven't failed. Trump's victory was a triumph of you and your show and conservatism. You put Trump over the top. You can't think that. Well, I do. Look, folks, I told you it's a tough thing to understand, because in the broad scheme of things, who can deny that what's happened to me has been overwhelmingly successful? I'm not doing that. But I've had all of these years to get to people, to explain the wonders, the beauties of freedom and liberty and how that is conservatism. And yet, despite all that, there are Americans who are willing, eagerly voting to lose their freedom, to give it over to politicians who want to control them, who don't care about them. I wonder, how did I miss them? How did I not reach them? And, of course, there are answers to that question, too. Look, I got to take a break. We'll be back here and wrap it up in just a second. A yearly tradition, we wrap up with Mannheim Steamroller and Silent Night, and my ongoing attempt to thank everybody in the audience, all of you, for everything you mean to me. That last call, that's reminds me how much I love all of you, how much I so appreciate everything you've meant to me and my family. You don't have any idea how. I know so many people think this program has changed their lives for the better. You have no idea what you all have meant to me and my family. The day is going to come, folks, where I'm not going to be able to do this. I don't know when that is. I want to be able to do it for as long as I want to do it. But the day will come where I'm not going to be able to. And I want you to understand that even when the day comes, I'd like to be here. Because I have this sense of needing to constantly show my appreciation for all that you have done and meant to me. So I hope you all have a great Christmas, a great New Year. And I hope that the things that are in store for all of us in the coming year are certainly better than what we have endured in 2020. I don't know too many people have enjoyed 2020. Probably some sickos out there who have, but 2021 has to be better. We're going to try to make it that way here at the EIB Network. Again, folks, thank you so much.